At least 573 Palestinians have been killed and 2,470 others injured, many of whom are women and children.
Palestine. In every decade of the last 100 years, blood has been spilt on this tiny pocket of land in the Middle East. Ottoman Turks, French, Arabs, Jews have lost their lives here. Towns and villages have changed hands, been destroyed, rebuilt and destroyed again. Guns and bombs from armaments factories in countries thousands of miles away have flowed here. The atom has been split here, and the only nuclear weapons in the Middle East are here. The President of Egypt, the Prime Minister of Israel, the leaders of the Palestine Liberation Organization and of Hamas have been assassinated because of events that took place here. Why? Tonight's timeline explains the roots of the conflict in Palestine. The great industrial powers are locked in mortal combat. Millions are dying in the trenches in Europe, but the consequences of the war are felt around the globe. The old, semi-feudal Ottoman Turkish Empire, already shaken by nationalist revolution in 1908, is falling to pieces. And disastrously, it's allied to Germany. The British and French are out to make the most of the collapse of the Ottoman Empire in the Middle East, and the British are out to protect the roots to the jewel in the crown, the British Empire in India. The British will promise anything to anyone if they think it will help them win the war. In 1915, Sir Henry McMahon, the British High Commissioner in Cairo, wants to encourage an Arab revolt against the Ottoman Empire. He writes to Sharif Hussein, "As for the regions lying within the proposed frontiers, in which Great Britain is free to act without detriment to her ally France, I am authorised to give you the following pledges on behalf of the government of Great Britain, and to reply to your note as follows. Great Britain is prepared to recognise and uphold the independence of the Arabs in all the regions lying within the frontiers proposed by the Sharif of Mecca." A year later, T. Lawrence of Arabia, writes an intelligence note to his British commanders and encourages them to take the same course. He says it will be beneficial to us because it marches with our immediate aims: the breakup of the Islamic bloc, the defeat and disruption of the Ottoman Empire, and because the states that Sharif Hussein would set up to succeed the Turks would be harmless to ourselves. The Arabs are even less stable than the Turks, and if properly handled, they would remain in a state of political mosaic, a tissue of small, jealous principalities incapable of cohesion. Yet a year after this, Lord Arthur Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, made an incompatible promise to a small group within the international Jewish community, the Zionists. His declaration of November 1917 read as follows: His Majesty's government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. And he said that this should be with the understanding that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of the existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. Two British promises about the same piece of land, self-determination for the Arabs and a homeland for the Jews. Both promises could not be kept, and it was the Balfour Declaration that was written into the treaties that ended the First World War. But treaties are just pieces of paper. Facts on the ground are a different thing. The British occupied Palestine in 1917, and after 1920 still ran Palestine under a mandate from the League of Nations. Neither the indigenous Arabs or Jews, who had lived in Palestine side by side for centuries, were granted any political rights. But the mandate did insist that the British must safeguard the interests of the Jewish settlers by placing the country under such political, administrative and economic conditions as will secure the establishment of a Jewish national home. Under British rule, Zionist immigration into Palestine rose to unprecedented levels. In 1930, just 4,000 Jewish settlers arrived, but by 1933, that figure had climbed to 30,000 Jewish settlers, and in the peak year of 1935, 60,000 Zionist settlers arrived in Palestine. Palestinian land was being brought up by settlers, often from absentee landlords. Society in Palestine was being thrown into the air in a way that had never happened in generations of Ottoman rule.